is entrapment. This is entrapment.
Versus your favorite Rams corner who you called was going to go to the Rams.
This is entrapment. Shout out to Marcus Peters dancing on the logo against the Titans. Shout out to Lamar Jackson. This is entrapment. I shouldn't have to answer this question. I feel like I should kick it to Izzy.
Who do you got, Kenny?
I'm going Packers.
But who do you got? Adams or Ramsey? You're still ducking the question, sir.
I'm going to go Packers. I think Adams might catch a touchdown. I think he'll catch a touchdown, but
so he's just going to have one touchdown for 8 yards? Like
it might be 2 catches, 15 yards, 1 touchdown, and it'll be a great battle back and forth. It'll be like a Julio type battle, but all I'm saying is when it comes to these two tacticians, I don't think it's going to come down to Jalen Ramsey and Devontae Adams. It's going to come down to Robert Tonyan and A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon is like 98% thigh. He's like baby Derrick Henry. He's like, if you cut up like 75% of Derrick Henry, cloned him, that's A.J. Dillon with a higher vertical and a better 40. And like A.J. Dillon had like 140 rush yards.
If you went to sleep in 2017 and woke up this year and was like, oh shit, the Packers have like actual running backs. Like, isn't that fucking weird?
Like Aaron Jones is a top 5 back. Like he's a top 5 back, and they don't even give him the ball that much. He would go off on any other team. Like that's crazy. And then
shout out to Eddie Lacy, our water breaker near you.
Shout out to the fact Eddie Lacy probably doing security somewhere chilling. Like high-level security, getting paid bands. He was the one fat Alabama running back that gave me hope. Like, anywhere else, he would have put up great numbers, and they would have dismissed him because they would have said he's fat, but he went to Alabama, and they're like, if he stays in perfect shape, the rest of his career, he'll have a chance. And he couldn't do it. I mean, you can't be at Alabama forever. So, but yeah, A.J. Dillon is a problem for these inside linebackers. Like, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones are a problem in the run game. So I don't even think it comes down to the pass game. Because those DBs for the Rams, quietly, career years. Their corner and their safety. Career years. So.
Well, Aqib Talib said that's not really surprising because he was with those guys a couple years ago and they were already showing signs.
Yeah. And Ramsey is, you know what Ramsey is.
Yep.
You can't even throw in his direction. And if you do, it's going to be schemed up pretty good. And
I thought he should have been a safety, honestly.
I think he'd have been a better safety too, but corners get all the love. Safeties don't necessarily get all the love. Kevin Byard had an all-pro season. Nobody talks about him anymore.
That's true.
Led the league in picks. Nobody talks about him anymore. They always talk about corners.
Okay, last one. Dan Quinn is now the new Cowboys defensive coordinator, and as we mentioned earlier, Gus Bradley is the defensive coordinator for the Raiders. So you got to take our tangent on the two former Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinators getting jobs despite failing as head coaches.
I think the Cowboys is a great job for any D coordinator looking to prove themselves after a bad head coaching run. And because Mike Nolan was terrible, like they should have never brought him in the mothballs. Like honestly, the only thing better for a fresh start for that defense and those players, with Dan Quinn being there, is that warehouse shoe sale that they just opened up down the street on Hawthorne and Marine.
I was gonna say Mike Nolan is like the fucking. He's a defensive coordinator you want in a fucking against a wing T team. Like the game's changed.
He can only stop the run.
The game's changed.
It's like I wouldn't want Mike Nolan. Like Mike Nolan's like you have great players on your defense. You just need a coach to just put it together. You get Mike Nolan, but you want actually somebody who will get the best out of those players instead of just having them show up every Sunday. Then you get a Dan Quinn.
And we all know what Mike McCarthy is, so I think it helps to have someone a little bit more raw on the defense. I just worry about. I worry anytime you bring a high-profile defensive coach into a job when you're, especially when you're more of an X's and O's offensive kind of coach, because you can easily lose the team that way. And especially with all the dysfunction the Cowboys already had last year, But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
They can't afford to lose that linebacking unit. That's the real issue. The D-line is going to be the D-line. You got production out of those guys. Out of ragtag guys. The linebackers are the glue to that defense. Plain and simple.
All right, so with that, let's go ahead and get to the rants. Kenny, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, man. Just y'all stay safe out there. Shit's crazy. White people are white peopling at an all-time high.
Sorry, Izzy.
Shit is dangerous for Izzy, too.
I almost went... Yeah, exactly. I'm mad at them, too.
It's like...
All facts here.
It's like I saw a black dude doing some really dumb shit at my job, and I'm just like, oh, great.
Dude,
now they're going to think we're together.
How are you looking at COVID and still not wearing a mask? Like, how do you see what's going on here?
I've honestly, allegedly, there's like a couple people at my job who had it and didn't say anything and just dipped. But like, just to let y'all know, everywhere you go, just assume that people who work there have somebody got COVID. Because what they do is like they said it. They had a law where like employers have to tell people. They have to leave notes for us, like if somebody got COVID at our job, just so for our safety, so we know. They're not telling us. So they're definitely not going to tell you.
Sue them.
Can't sue. Because then medical rights come into play. And then they could just, some of the places that aren't going to enforce the vaccine might be like, well, you might have to take this vaccine. So you should probably just be quiet and be thankful for your job. So it's very stressful in that regard as an essential worker. Just working in the food industry. And people don't respect your space. Like they come in, they'll have their mask on their nose.
Don't worry. Robots are going to take your job pretty soon. So
robots are going to take all our jobs, bro. Like they already...
Until a robot could talk about sports, we're good.
That already exists.
I think we're good.
I was listening to like a podcast. This chick from and she's in England, over in Britain, or she's British. And she was talking about how there's literally tech companies that just buy voice recordings, and then they did it like they had a conversation, and then the AI copied their conversation, and you could kind of tell it was AI, but it was so seamless that once it made the initial correction, that it's like, this is already out there. And people are like, well, do you have to pay to use my likeness? I'm like, no, we don't. The AI did it. So technically, yeah, they're already stealing people's intellectual property and just having AI talk over it. It's dangerous. I'm like, in those clubhouse rooms when they're talking about like having tech and code behind your content, it's like, who thinks to code all their shit? Like whether it's music, pictures.
You should be.
But I'm saying like people who are getting into it, they're not thinking like that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not thinking that far into the future.
That's why there's guppies and there's sharks. The sharks are the tech companies. The sharks are the people who are convincing these people, oh, these apps are a great way to connect with your friends.
But really, I'm taking all your privacy.
They reached a point, and that's where we're at right now. And we've seen it with MySpace back in the day. We've seen it with all these various platforms. But you reach a point in a social media's lifespan where like it becomes so much about likes and follows and less about friends and connection. And the people that you're connected with aren't necessarily the people that you would be connected with in real life. That's why they say like Snapchat is a real social media platform, because you're actually engaging with people that you would actually engage with in real life. Yeah. Versus, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, you're more just following people you don't have access to.
And Clubhouse, they've been saying that, and it's like some rooms are like they're giving out just bogus information and they're trolling, and they're like, they got to clean this up. But then the founders of Clubhouse were in a room getting hounded, and they're like, oh shit, we don't want this. So it's like, are humans just making technology worse with their stupidity?
It's both.
Or it's just both. Like where we're at and like a pandemic and all that shit.
Well, the reason why I brought it out is because virtual CES happened this week, and there's always crazy shit there. They've been having talking robots for a few years.
They've been doing that.
But now, in case you don't know, Los Angeles has been greenlit for this robot delivery company. They did really well in the Berkeley, Northern Bay Area. So their second place to branch out now is LA because they see it as, one, food delivery is commonplace here now, and two, it's so spread out that it's like literally the hardest place for them to be. So they figure if we can figure out LA, we can figure out any of these other cities. So they're here, and there's also a couple other companies who are doing autonomous stuff, like as far as like workers, manufacturing. There's some robots that are gonna. There's like smart pallets. Smart pallets are coming in the next few years. Trucks, so yeah, you warehouse workers, watch out. And of course, you mentioned trucks, electronic autonomous trucks, and everybody's working on an autonomous car, from Apple to Sony to any sort of tech company is trying to figure out the electric vehicle and or the autonomous car.
Plus,
so,
yeah, they already
all that shit is coming.
They already have like a
We'll
Tesla.
be here in 10 years.
Yeah, so essentially none of us can have jobs. And apparently Bitcoin, they're saying it's crashing, but who knows?
But that's the thing, and that's what I was listening to at CES too. They were talking about it. It was like people overestimate the short-term impact of technology. Like they always think, oh, I made this thing. It's awesome. It's great. It's so cool. Like people are going to love it. People are going to buy it. And they're like, humans are just resistant to change. So they're like, no, they don't adopt it. And what ends up happening is it costs too much to make, and so it never takes off. And that's whether you're talking about like 3D TVs, like all these sort of technologies that people are like, oh, these are next up, and they never make it. It's because people overestimate the short term, but they also underestimate the long term. So like when you talk about 10 years, like 10 years ago, 2000 to like 2010, like the shit we're doing on our phones now, like nobody was thinking about that. And so to your point, like are humans part of what's making technology bad? And so it's both. Like, yeah, because we don't look at things longer than, okay, I want to make money right now. How can I make the most money the fastest right this minute? Versus, okay, I'm creating something that's going to take off in 10 years when the culture changes. Because... So yeah, that was just one interesting thing I kind of took away from this week.
That kind of got depressing. Knowing
it's true because it's like
slowly like creating ourselves out of existence.
And that's the other part. That's why we have these shows is like, okay, yeah, we might not get the fucking whatever the cool gadget is this year, but people are working towards that. And you know that that's going to be coming sooner rather than later. And it's going to take a few times to perfect, but, 3 to 5 years, those smart cars, those autonomous vehicles, those smart pallets, like, that's the vision. That's what we're working towards.
Yeah. People need to stop saying you're going to go live off the grid. Where the fuck are you going to live off the grid? First off, you need money and food to live and resources. And guess what? If there's robot dogs out there chasing you down, you ain't doing shit. You ain't got enough guns or ammo to do anything. So stop saying, oh, I'm going to live off the grid. I'm going to go. No, we're not going back to that caveman era. That shit's done. It's over. Like, you don't have a phone? People look at you like you're stupid in 2021. Tell somebody you don't have a phone or an email address. How the fuck do you eat? Like, so, yeah, it's horrifying. Like we're literally living in like Animal Farm spliced with Fahrenheit 451 on crack.
All right, so we went on a tangent for your round, but go ahead. Are you done?
I'm definitely done.
All right, done. Izzy, you want to go ahead? I don't have much to say either. So.
Me either. I don't know how artificial intelligence is gonna react to white Karen, so that is gonna be funny.
The AI called the police on me. Is that the title of the show?
That's scary. That's a nightmare of mine.
I thought the Alabama celebration was crazy.